When you are cooking for a family of 4 or more every single day, you are dealing with massive thermal loads. Boiling large pots of curry, deep frying, and long simmering sessions require raw, uncompromising heat. If you try to run these daily marathons on a cheap 1500-watt electric induction plate, the machine will eventually fail. The internal coils simply cannot handle the sustained stress of heating massive, heavy-bottomed pans without burning out or aggressively dropping their temperature to survive. To genuinely replace a gas stove for a large household, you have to look at a specific tier of premium hardware. Based on long-term user testing, 2 units reliably handle this scale of cooking: the 2200-watt Prestige PIC 6.1 V3 and the 2100-watt Philips Viva HD4928/01. This checklist illustrates 4 requirements a gas replacement must satisfy. First, sustained wattage for high deep frying temperatures. Second, aggressively boiling large volumes quickly. Third, interface microcontrol for delicate flatbreads. Finally, continuous runtime pushing out uninterrupted heat. Upgrading to a 2000-watt plus electric cooktop provides the massive power required to check these boxes. However, bringing that much brute electrical force into your home demands a strict adaptation in both your household wiring and your daily cooking habits. The success of ditching your gas cylinder no longer depends on whether these machines are capable. It depends entirely on whether your kitchen infrastructure is compatible with high-wattage electrical demands. The physics of a 2100-watt sustained power draw mechanically differs from budget models. Instead of pulsing heat on and off, high-wattage induction generates a much denser electromagnetic field, continuously pushing uninterrupted thermal energy directly into heavy-bottomed cookware. You see the raw power of this heat transfer most clearly when deep frying. When you heat thick, wood-pressed groundnut oil, these machines keep the oil bubbling continuously. Even when you add cold ingredients, the heat retention is unyielding. This animated 2x2 diagram evaluates the high-wattage induction experience directly against traditional gas. Let's start with the top row, power and automation. Because of that dense electromagnetic field, these machines flawlessly hold high, consistent temperatures without dropping. For heavy boiling and deep frying, they earn an immediate win for brute heat sustenance. But uncompromising heat delivery requires an immediate behavioral trade-off. You must actively manage your temperature settings. If left unattended on maximum power, the relentless heat will burn your food rapidly. To help manage this power, premium models integrate features like automated thermal counting. Automated thermal counting is an internal system that uses built-in sensors to monitor and tally specific heat spikes, like the sudden release of steam. The Prestige PIC 6.1 V3 applies this by including a built-in automatic whistle counter for pressure cookers. You program the number of whistles you need, and the machine tracks them and shuts off the heat entirely without any manual intervention. This scores highly on our matrix as a massive time saver. Hands-free automation frees up your mental bandwidth to prep other dishes while the heavy boiling manages itself. The trade-off here is psychological. To get the benefit, you have to surrender your manual control. You have to walk away and completely trust the machine's internal programming to kill the heat at the right time. The true advantage of the 2100-watt tier is exactly this. It takes raw, previously unpredictable heat and transforms it into a highly quantifiable, automated utility. However, switching to conductive glass-top heating requires unlearning years of muscle memory. Returning to our diagram, the matrix expands downward to reveal the hidden costs of ditching gas, focusing on technique and infrastructure constraints. The steepest learning curve is making traditional flatbreads. Puffing perfectly round rotis requires finding the exact thermal sweet spot on the glass surface, which takes repeated practice and patience. You lose the immediate tactile feedback of an open flame. You can't rely on the quick charring effect of fire licking the edge of the bread, making microcontrol significantly harder on a flat induction coil. We mark this loss of traditional technique as a major friction point on our matrix. Beyond cooking technique, the greatest vulnerability of these high-wattage appliances is their absolute reliance on your local power grid. Because they draw massive current, both the Philips and Prestige units utilize voltage protection circuitry. Voltage protection circuitry is an internal hardware safety measure that actively monitors incoming electrical current and forces the machine to shut down if it detects dangerous drops or surges. If your neighborhood electrical grid is unstable, the internal motherboard reacts. When the voltage abruptly dims or spikes, the cooktop immediately cuts its own power. For the user, this results in frequent intentional pauses right in the middle of a cook. The machine stops boiling or frying until the household voltage stabilizes to a safe level. We score this infrastructural vulnerability as the final limiting factor on the matrix. If your grid drops, your cooking stops. When these premium models pause, they are not failing. They are aggressively protecting themselves from suboptimal wiring, making them incredibly demanding of their environment. The hardware on both the Prestige and Philips models is objectively excellent. Therefore, your final purchasing decision rests entirely on an honest analysis of your specific kitchen environment. This diagram determines who should invest. Start at the top. Are you cooking for 4 or more? If making single servings, it's overkill. But for heavy daily cooking, follow the yes path to the second rule. Is your local voltage stable? If your grid is unreliable, you'll suffer mid-cook pauses. You need consistent power. If wiring is solid, are you willing to adapt to glass-top cooking for flatbreads? If power cuts frequently or you prefer open flames for rotis, this maps our avoid scenario. For traditional technicians or those with constrained power grids, keeping your gas cylinder is the frustration-free choice. However, if you clear those hurdles, we reach the perfect fit scenario. The perfect buyer feeds a large family, runs on a stable electrical grid, and wants automated brute force heating. If you match that buy profile and are ready to make the switch, check the links in the description below for current pricing on both models. Completely ditching gas is possible for heavy Indian cooking, provided you invest in the right wattage and ensure your kitchen infrastructure can handle the load.